چاہتا ہے جی یہی اے نور یزدانی حسین، چاہتا ہے جی یہی اے نور یزدانی، عمر بھر کرتا رہوں تیری ثنا خوانی حسین، چاہتا ہے جی یہی اے نور یزدانی، عظمت کعبہ بھی ہے اب اس کی عظمت پر نثار، عظمت کعبہ بھی ہے اب اس کی عظمت پر نثار، تو نے کل جس خاک پر رکھی تھی پیشانی حسین، چاہتا جی کیسے ممکن تھا کہ حرف آتا کوئی اسلام پر، کر رہے تھے خود شریعت کی نگہبانی حسین، کر رہے تھے خود شریعت کی نگہبانی حسین، چاہتا ہے جی ہر طرف سے ظلمتوں نے گھیر رکھا تھا مگر ہر طرف سے ظلمتوں نے گھیر رکھا تھا مگر تو نے کم ہونے نہ دی ایمان کی تابانی حسین، چاہتا ہے جی دیکھ لے دنیا عمل قرآن پر کرتا ہے کون، مانگتے تھے دشمنوں سے اس لیے پانی حسین، چاہتا ہے جی یہ جل رہا تھا آگ میں خیموں کی جب زینب کا دل، دیکھتی تھی تیری جانب گھر کی ویرانی حسین، چاہتا ہے جی یہی ہے یہی اسباب اے موجز سکون زندگی، ہے یہی اسباب اے موجز سکون زندگی، مجلس و ماتم محافل مرثیہ خوانی، مجلس و ماتم محافل مرثیہ خوانی حسین، چاہتا ہے جی یہی صلوات محمد وآل محمد۔
بارے دیگر نعرہ صلوات اللہم صلی علی محمد و آل محمد. امتحان عاشقی میں کیف پاتے ہیں حسین. امتحان عاشقی میں کیف پاتے ہیں حسین. انتہائی مشکلوں میں مسکراتے ہیں حسین. انتہائی مشکلوں میں مسکراتے ہیں حسین. اور لا فتح الا علی لا سیف الا ذوالفقار لا فتح الا علی لا سیف الا ذوالفقار. پڑھتے جاتے ہیں فرشتے بڑھتے جاتے ہیں حسین. امتحان عاشقی میں محمد و آل محمد صلوات اللہ محمد و آل محمد. فاتحہ. بسم اللہ. محمد و آل محمد صلوات اللہم صلی علی محمد و آل محمد. گھر سے جب بہرے سفر سید عالم نکلے سر جھکائے ہوئے بادیدہ پرنا نکل خویش و فرزند پرابند کے باہر نکل رو کے فرمایا کہ شہر سے اب ہاں رات سے گریہ اماں کی صدا آتی ہے. ارے دیکھ قسمت ہمیں کس دشت میں لے جا دیکھ
قسمت ہمیں کس دشت میں لے جاتی ہے، رخ کیا شاہ نے سوئے قبر شہنشاہ انا، بہر تسلیم جھکے متصل باب اذن پا کر جو گئے قبر کے نزدیک، ارے عرض کی آیا ہے آج آخری رخصت، یہ مقام ہم سے اب اے شاہ زمن چھوڑتا، ارے آج حضرت کے نواسے سے وطن چھوڑتا، آج حضرت کے نواسے سے وطن چھوڑتا، چین سے سب ہیں گھروں میں ہمیں ملتا نہیں چین، سخت مشکل میں پھنسا آپ کا یہ نور، ارے ٹوکڑے دل ہوتا ہے جب رو کے حرم کرتے ہیں، نان بچوں کو بھلا لے کے کدھر جائے حسین، ارے شہر میں چین نہ جنگل میں امان ارے دیکھیے قبر مسافر کو کہاں ملتی ہے، دیکھیے قبر مسافر کو کہاں ملتی ہے، یہ بیاں کر کے جو تحویز سے لپٹے یوں ہلی قبر کے تھرائی ذریعے، آئی تربت سے یہ آواز حبیب تیری غربت کے میں صدقے میرے مظلوم کوئی سمجھا نہ میری گود کا پالا، ارے ہائے آدان مدینے سے نکالا ہائے آدان مدینے سے نکالا تجھ کو، کئی دن سے تیری مادر کو نہیں قبر میں چین، آئی تھی شب کو میرے پاس یہ کرتی گھر میرا لوٹا ہے فریاد رسول ارے صبح کو اپنا وطن چھوڑ کے جاتا کہنے آئی ہوں کہ منہ قبر سے موڑوں گی، ارے اپنے بچے کو اکیلا تو نہ چھوڑوں گی، اپنے بچے کو اکیلا تو نہ چھوڑوں گی، شہ پکارے کہ خدا حافظ و ناصر آپ سے ہوتا ہے رخصت یہ مسافر، مدت زیست کو کوئی دم میں ہے آخر، اب نہیں آس کے آنا ہو یہاں پھر، سمجھتے ہم لحد ایک ہی جا ہوں क्या कयामत है कि कब्रें भी जुदा हो, अरे क्या कयामत है कि कब्रें भी जुदा होंगी, घर से जब बहरे सफर।
मोहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम।
Assalamu alaikum. Please recite salawat for the safety of those who read. Before we continue with the program, I would like to read a short Urdu poem on Imam's arrival on the plains of Karbala. Utra Ali Kalal Sare Dasht Ne Nawa, Zainab ne poocha bhai se ye kaun si hai ja. Shabir ne jawab mein Zainab se ye kaha, kehte hai is zameen ko Dasht Karbala. Quick announcements. We are hosting a Q&A session with Dr. Hazari this coming Saturday, and also a blood drive will be taking place on August 12th, and we humbly request you to come and donate. Tonight, Shaykh will be talking about penitence and its reformative power, and a look at Astaghfar in the Holy Quran. Now welcome Shaykh Dr. Mehdi Sayyid Hazari with a loud salawat.
على حب فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على. لتعجيل فرج الإمام صاحب العصر والزمان صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. الفاتحة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. صلى الله عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا رسول الله وعلى أهل بيتك المعصومين الأبرار الميامين المظلومين المضطهدين. السلام عليك وعلى ولدك المظلوم أبي عبد الله الحسين يا رحمة الله الواسعة ويا باب نجاة الأمة يا غريب يا مظلوم يا عطشان كربلاء. ما خاب والله من تمسك بكم أمنا من لجأ والتجأ إليكم. يا ليتنا فيا ليتنا كنا معكم سادتي فنفوز والله فوزا عظيما. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن المنافقين في الدرك الأسفل من النار ولن تجد لهم نصيرا إلا الذين تابوا وأصلحوا واعتصموا بالله وأخلصوا دينهم لله فأولئك مع المؤمنين وسوف يؤتي الله المؤمنين أجرا عظيما آمنا بالله صدق الله العلي العظيم اللهم صل على محمد وعلى والسلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. My dear brothers and sisters, when Imam Hussain alayhi salatu wassalam bi abi wa ummi, when he reached a place called Qasr Bani Maqatil, which was not far now from Karbala, he stopped in Qasr Bani Maqatil. In this place, he encountered a few people. And there are many stations in which he stopped from Mecca all the way up towards Iraq. He stopped in many, many places. And there are many riwayat about who he encountered, who he met. In this station at Qasr Bani Maqatil, he met a man named Ubaydullah ibn Hurr al-Ju'fi. I'm not going to discuss him, but you can look him up, what his state was. He encountered another two individuals who immediately, it was his role and his responsibility that he felt on his shoulders to call people to the path of God. And he said to these two men, he said, join me for establishing what Allah wants us to establish, to preserve the legacy of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam, and for salvation in the days to come, in the next world. The two men, they looked at Imam Hussain and they said, Ya ibn Rasulillah, this is very difficult for us because we have commitments, we have responsibilities, we have given trusts to other people, we need to fulfill those trusts. And if we join you, then we will be at risk of not fulfilling those trusts. Saying this, Imam Hussain alayhi salam, he says to them, then go very far. Because if you hear the cries of our ladies coming for help and you don't answer, then you will be answerable on that day. In the same token, let's go back a few weeks. Imam Hussain alayhi salam leaves Mecca and he stops in a place called Tan'im. You all know Tan'im. Today, if you go to Mecca, Tan'im is actually a part of the city of Mecca now. In those days, Tan'im was a smaller little station almost, a stopping point outside of Mecca in those days. Imam Hussain, he stops in Tan'im, and as he stops in Tan'im, there are some people there, he's talking to them, and at every station saying to them, join me, and if you don't want to join me, you can leave. There is no compulsion on you. However, at that point, there was a caravan that was coming from Yemen and going towards Syria. And it was alerted to Imam that the caravan was coming with gifts and all sorts of different possessions that were being sent by the wali, by the governor of Yemen, to the new Khalifa, Yazid, la'natullahi alayhi. And so when they stopped there and Imam Hussain found out about it, Imam Hussain took those possessions, took the caravan. Now I'm going to divert for a second. There are some people, some historians who have argued that this is not possible, is not correct. Because then Imam Hussain would have engaged in what is called highway robbery, yes? Essentially he would have been a highway robber, wal-ayadu billah, and he would have taken the possession of somebody else. So there are those people who say this. There are other people who explain it in a different manner. They say that no, Imam Hussain did what he was justified in doing. Why? Because one, Yazid was receiving these properties, these gifts, whatever was being sent to him by the wali, by the governor of Yemen, as the Khalifa of Islam, as a Khalifa of the Muslim nation. However, he had not acquired that position legitimately. Neither did he become appointed by the people. Yazid was not appointed by the people. He took it by usurpation. Nor was he appointed by Allah. So the sending of these materials to him, these gifts to him from Yemen, was not justified. It was unjust. And so Imam Hussain, as the true wali of Allah, as the true Khalifa of Allah, had the right to take it, because it was unjust. Even then, this riwayah, which is in the books about him stopping in Tan'im and taking the caravan that was going from Yemen to Syria, it is unknown whether it is legitimate or not. We don't know if it is authentic. But let's assume it is authentic, and Imam Hussain did take it, because it is mentioned in the Arbab al-Maqatil. It is mentioned in the history. Let's say Imam Hussain did take it, and he had those possessions with him. What did he do with them? Now fast forward some days into the days of Muharram. Imam Hussain has arrived into Karbala. And now he's in Karbala. The day of Ashura has arrived and fighting is taking place. Amongst his companions, it is reported, was a man named Bishr al-Hadrami al-Kindi. He was from the tribe of Kinda. There were several members of the army of Imam Hussain who were from the tribe of Kinda. So there is a man named Bishr al-Hadrami in the army of Imam Hussain, and as the battle is taking place or about to take place, it's reported that news comes to Imam Hussain that the son of Bishr, this companion of his, has been taken hostage in Rai, what is today Tehran basically. He's been taken hostage there and they are holding him. Some people are holding him. And that there's only one of two things that can potentially happen to his son. One, they will kill him. Or two, they will barter for his life, meaning they will take a ransom. Imam Hussain, on the day of Ashura, that caravan that he took from Yazid back at Tan'im, he comes to Bishr al-Hadrami and he says, my companion, take these things and go with them to Rai and pay for your son's life, free your son. Pay for your son's life. Bishr al-Hadrami, he looks at Al-Imam Abi Abdullah al-Hussain. He says, how can I leave you, my master, when you are so few in number? You have so few supporters, and they are standing with this monstrous army ready to spill your blood. He refuses. He says, no, I cannot in any good conscience take this and go to save my own child when the son of Rasulullah's life is in danger. Imam Hussain alayhi salam, he says, okay, you don't want to take it. Give this wealth, they take this, all this possession, give it to your son, his son Muhammad. Bishr's son Muhammad was there as well with them in Karbala. He said, give it to your son, let him go free his brother. Now the history does not report whether he took it or didn't. But my point in this is that Bishr was shaheed in Karbala. And so I ask this question, that what makes Bishr al-Hadrami different from those two other men and many others who Imam encountered on his way from Mecca up to Karbala? Why did one stay and the others did not? And I ask you this question because was one a Muslim and the other was a non-Muslim? No. One did his salat, the other didn't do his salat. One read Quran, the other didn't read Quran. No, for all intents and purposes, what we know is one was a Muslim, so was the other. One read the Quran, so did the other. One was doing his salat, so were the others. Was it not? There's no question of this. So how is it that one took the path of salvation at the hands of Imam Hussain and the other went running? My dear brothers and sisters, I mentioned to you yesterday that society is swinging, yes? And not only is it swinging, that it appears that the vast majority of people don't know where they're going. That's not to say there's not goodness in the world, that there are not just people in the world. But from our perspective, we need the dhuhur of Al-Imam al-Mehdi, ajjalallahu ta'ala farajahu al-sharif. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. To establish what Allah had wanted established in societies. And that in the absence or in anticipation of that, the world has not achieved and societies have not come to the place where they need to be. That means the vast majority of people have not reached where Allah wants them, and that they need the hand of the Imam on top of their heads to do so. And the Quran points to this. And tonight I will try, it is the night of Jumu'ah, it is the night of Dua al-Kumail. I will try to keep it simple and not go as long as I did yesterday. I apologize for that. But the Quran describes. And again, if anything you hear from me, hear the power of the Quran. That the Quran is what describes to us how we must behave. In one place, it describes the story of a community who are afflicted by disease and they all die. They all die. And sometime later, the prophet Hizqil or Ezekiel as he's called, who was the second successor of Musa alayhi salam. Musa alayhi salam, when he died, he left behind him Yusha ibn Nun, and after Yusha ibn Nun was Hizqil. Hizqil, he's walking through the earth. He comes upon this community that has died. They're already all dead. He sees all their bodies are lying there dead, decaying away. And he says, Ya Allah, I would like to see that you can bring them back to life. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says, you want me to bring them to life? The Prophet, he says, yes, Ya Allah. If it is by your permission, Allah brings them all back to life. It is in the Quran. He brings them back to life and they are alive suddenly after being dead and they're amazed. They cannot believe, how did this happen? How did this happen? And the ayah of the Holy Quran, when it finishes describing it, it says, وَأَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يَشْكُرُونَ. Most of the people are not grateful. أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ. The Holy Quran, it says, أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يَشْكُرُونَ. Most people are not grateful. Now in this case, it is not gratitude that you're saying, thank you, Ya Allah, or Ash-shukru lillah, or Alhamdulillah. It's about acknowledging what is in front of you. Isn't that it? If you come to me and you give me a cup of chai, yes? And I drink the chai, I say thank you to you with a very beautiful smile, as beautiful as my smile can be. I drink the chai, I take 2 sips and then I throw the rest of it. Will you think that despite my sweet smile and my thanks to you that I have acknowledged that you gave me something from your heart? You will never acknowledge that. You will say that this person didn't value what I gave him, this cup of tea. Now imagine Allah is the giver. Imagine Allah is the one who gave you life after death, after you were dead. And Allah now is saying, وَأَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يَشْكُرُونَ. Most people are not grateful. So that's one thing. Either we have no acknowledgement, or maybe we notice it and we just don't thank Him. In another place in the Holy Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes the story of Yusuf alayhi salam. How he's taken. Now if I were to say to you that you've been thrown into a well at the age of 9, he was approximately 9, 10, 11, 12, something like this, it is reported. You're thrown as a young boy into a well and left there to die. And that too by your brothers, who are going to go home and tell a story to your parents. What will you say is the state of Yusuf alayhi salam? Calamity, no? I mean, it's the worst thing you can think it'll happen. Maybe in some sense, people will say it's better for him that he would have died than to have been thrown alive into the bottom of a well. Good thing someone found him, brought him out. He's taken into servitude, essentially, into the house of the Amir. You all know the story, what happens. The ayah of the Holy Quran, it describes that we took Yusuf from that beginning and we made for him a position that is so exalted. So exalted. And then at the end of the ayah, it says, وَأَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. First it said most people are not grateful. Now it says most people don't know. لا يعلمون. أكثر الناس لا يعلمون. Most people don't know. What don't they know? The Mufassirin, they explain, insan doesn't even know how Allah can take you from the lowest position and put you in the highest position if He wants to. And that maybe if He's put you in that lowest position, there is a reason that He's taking you through certain stages to get you to where you have to go. Maybe to get to this high position, you have to go through the low positions. And I already said to you that pain is a good thing. But أكثر الناس لا يعلمون. Most people don't know. They are not aware. They're too busy trying to decide for themselves. And then finally, the third place, this is the scariest one. Allah describes the position of truth. That haqq comes and its exposition is so clear. And when its exposition is clear, you should accept it. Yet the ayah of the Quran, what does it say? أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ. Most people don't believe. Now I don't know about you, but if the Holy Quran is saying أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يَشْكُرُونَ أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ, Akthar in Arabic, it means most. And if God has said it, most people, I don't know about you, but I worry that I am being categorized with the most. Because in history, always you will see the people standing on the side of truth are very few. We talked about it yesterday with the prophethood. So the question is, how do you ensure that you are not part of the most, as the Quran is describing? And the Quran is pointing these stories to make you realize that don't follow the crowd, ensure that you are not lumped in with these people. That in fact, you are of the few who do show gratitude, do understand the power of Allah and where He can take you, and that no matter how difficult the state you are in, Allah is greater than that. And that you are a believer truly down to your core. The only way, my dear brothers and sisters, is through Astaghfar. Astaghfar is that thing that will allow us to get to Jannah. I'm going to say it again. The only path to Jannah is Astaghfar. Why? Because it is the path that depends on the mercy of Allah. And there is no Jannah without the mercy of Allah, because we are all sinners. Are we not? We all sin, smallest to the biggest. And the only way we get to Jannah is by Him accepting our Astaghfar and recognizing. And He says in the Holy Quran, وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ سُوءًا أَوْ يَظْلِمْ نَفْسَهُ ثُمَّ يَسْتَغْفِرِ اللَّهِ يَجِدِ اللَّهَ غَفُورًا رَحِيمًا. He says those people who do evil, and what do? They do dhulm on themselves. They do dhulm on themselves, but then they ask forgiveness of Allah, they will find that Allah is forgiving. They will find that Allah is forgiving. The ayah, it shows two parts. They do su and they do dhulm on themselves. The Holy Quran describes. Su is you do evil to maybe somebody around you. You mistreat somebody. You take someone's possession. You speak rudely to someone. You withdraw and withhold the rights of somebody and cause them pain. When this happens, what have you done to the other person? Let me ask you. If you come to me and you're standing in front of me and I say, that's an ugly shirt. Who taught you how to dress? Right? What will happen? Maybe you're a confident person and you will, like the young people today are fairly confident. They don't care. Walking around in pink shirts and I'm old school. I wear black and really that's it. Maybe one day I will wear white, but my clothes are pretty much all black. Today kids will wear pink. Boys I'm talking about. Pink, light green, orange. I mean, it's more power to you. But if I were to see you and I say, man, who taught you how to dress? You look horrible, right? What have I done to that person? Have I harmed them in some way? No, maybe I've hurt their feelings, but I've not done anything to them. Worst comes to worst, I can cause suit to someone by harming their body or taking their property. Can I harm someone from the inside? Can I damage someone from the inside? And I'm not talking about psychological abuse and this and that. Can I, if the person is strong enough, has iman, fortitude, can I damage someone from the inside? No, I can't. If the person is strong, they may feel hurt for a little while. They may be insulted by what I have said, but for all intents and purposes, they will be fine. I can't do anything to reach inside them and damage them. But the other part of the ayah, when it says, وَيَظْلِمْ نَفْسَهُ, they do dhulm on themselves. Why is the dhulm of the self so bad? Why is it so bad? Because it causes a disease inside you. What you can't do to other people, you definitely can do to yourself. When you do dhulm on yourself, when you oppress yourself by transgressing Allah's laws, you are creating a disease inside of yourself. You are creating rot that is eating away at your soul, that is eating away at your dhamir, at your conscience. And that is the danger of this thing. That's why we are in Laylat al-Jumu'ah, the night in which Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wassalam. Allahumma salli ala. What does he say? He says, Allahumma aghfir li adh-dhunub allati tahtikul isam. Yes? Oh Allah, forgive me the sins that harm and destroy and hinder my ability to be pure. And when the ulama explained what are these sins, these are all the personal sins that we commit. Drinking of alcohol, gambling, financial cheating, etc. These sorts of things that harm us. Allahumma aghfir li adh-dhunub allati tahtiku al-hisam. Allahumma aghfir li adh-dhunub allati tughayyirun ni'am. Allah, forgive me the sins that change the ni'mah. Change the ni'mah. When the scholars are asked, what does Imam Ali mean by these sins that are changing the ni'mah, the gift, the bounty of Allah? They say these are the sins of not recognizing God the way He should be recognized. God has given you ni'mah, you don't recognize it, what happens? You commit a sin, wal-ayadu billah, and that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala changes the ni'mah. And not only does He change the ni'mah, He does so in a way that either becomes a sign for you or becomes a slippery slope, and I will explain that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is constantly reminding us that engage in astaghfar. Engage in astaghfar. And astaghfar, its word in the Holy Quran, when you translate it, means forgiveness. Forgive me, God. But it also, if you understand its significance, means that Allah, I have done something that can cause me harm. So shield me from that harm. That is the meaning of astaghfar. When you say atubu ilayk, it means I turned my head from you, I am now turning back to you. Astaghfar, it means Ya Allah, shield me. Shield me from the consequences, the bad consequences of my actions. Save me from those actions. And they can be so subtle that you don't even know what they've done to you. It's described that in one of the years, in the time of Imam al-Kadhim alayhi salatu wassalam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. There was a companion named Safwan. Safwan was well-to-do, and for his business, he had a herd of camel. And he would rent the camels out, and people will use the camels because they were sturdy, they were for transport. People will use the camels for their caravans and then return the camels back to him. It was rental car service, rental camel service that he had, yes? So one day, Harun al-Rashid al-Abbasi, with his entourage, decided they want to go for Hajj. And when they asked who has the best service in terms of transport, Safwan's name came. So they came. He asked Safwan. He says, we want to rent your camels. We will pay you a very high sum, a high payment for this. And we would like to take your camels to go for Hajj. Safwan, he agrees. He says, okay, take the camels, and we agree. Harun al-Rashid, he says, I will pay you at the end of the Hajj. Once we return the camels, we will give you such and such very high sum. So they make the agreement. Some time goes by. Word of this reaches Al-Imam al-Kadhim. And so it just happens that Safwan is visiting with Al-Imam al-Kadhim alayhi salatu wassalam. He comes in, he says, Assalamu alayka ya ibn Rasulillah. Al-Imam al-Kadhim alayhi salam, he says, Wa alaykum as-salam. He says, O Safwan, Allah is pleased with all your good actions. You are truly one of the believers. However, there's one action of yours that is not good. Safwan becomes nervous. If you imagine your Imam is telling you that even one of your actions is not good. He says, Ya ibn Rasulillah, what have I done? He said, I have heard that you have rented out your camels to that tyrant Harun al-Rashid, a man who is evil, despotic, and only uses his wealth, his possessions for the desecration of religion. He drinks alcohol, he does all the things that are inappropriate and outside the bounds of religion. And by allowing him to ride on your camels, you have allowed him to promote this type of behavior. So Safwan, he says, Ya ibn Rasulillah, it was not my intention to do so. When he came and asked me for the camels, I was afraid that he knew I was a Shia, I was your Shia, and I was afraid that if I did not agree to his terms and give him my camels, that he would persecute me and maybe even harm me in some manner. So I had to give my camels to him. Imam al-Kadhim alayhi salam, he says, that being the case, even then, he says, are you not hoping in your heart that Harun al-Rashid remains alive? Safwan, he says, yes, I am. Why? He says, because you want him to go for Hajj and return with your camels so you get your payment. Safwan, he says, yes, I am. I have that hope that he will go and come back and return my camels and pay me what we had agreed upon. Imam, he says, just in that hope you have committed a sin. Because in that hope, you have hoped for this tyrant to remain alive and to continue his mockery of religion, to continue his desecration of the symbols of God and all of the drinking and whatever else he does. Just in that hope that you will get your camels back and get the payment for it, you have supported him. Ya Allah. They say Safwan, he's so devoted, he goes and he sells all his camels. Immediately. He finds the next buyer, he sells them. Harun al-Rashid, he finds out and he says, I know who put you up to this. That's Abul Hassan Musa ibn Ja'far al-Kadhim. You are a follower of his, he put you up to this. He was so mad. But you see how intention, just that intention. And that's why Astaghfar is deeply embedded inside of us. It's not just about me speaking. It's not just about me talking. And that's why the Holy Quran, again, tonight I had intended that the topic is Astaghfar through the Quran, understanding its power through the Quran. It is not just about me speaking. Astaghfirullah Rabbi wa atubu ilayh, Astaghfirullah Rabbi wa atubu ilayh. Yes, it's good to do it, but it must have meaning. The Holy Quran, it says, الَّذِينَ فَعَلُوا فَاحِشَةً أَوْ ظَلَمُوا أَنفُسَهُمْ ذَكَرُوا اللَّهِ فَاسْتَغْفَرُوا لِذُنُوبِهِمْ. He says, those people who do a fahisha. The ayah, it says, a fahisha is an act that is ugly. It's a sin and it is ugly. It's considered to be ugly. Those people who do an ugly act, and again it mentions, who do dhulm on themselves, who create a rot inside of themselves by committing oppression on their own nafs, by violating the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says, these are the people who, if they do this, ذَكَرُوا Allah. They remember Allah immediately. فَاسْتَغْفَرُوا لِذُنُوبِهِمْ وَمَنْ يَغْفِرَ الذُّنُوبَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. They immediately remember God when they do it. We all make mistakes, but the ones who truly are embracing Astaghfar, as the Quran is saying, are the ones who do dhikr. They remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now let me stop here. In Arabic, when you use the word hafadha, what does that mean? Hafadha in Arabic means to memorize. That you commit something to memory and you have it in your memory. What is the difference between hafadha and dhakara? Both of them emanate from inside of you. They are built from a place where you already have existing knowledge of something and you recall. Hafadha means you've memorized it and you recall it. What is the difference between hafadha and dhikr? The Mufassirin, they explain that the word hafadha means you memorize, you have memorized from A to Z or from start to finish whatever you wanted to memorize, and the minute you engage it, you start it and you finish it and it is complete. That is hafadha. You memorize a surah of the Quran, what do? You start with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, you go all the way to the last ayah, you finish the ayah, someone will say, yes, he's memorized it. She has memorized it. It has been memorized. Dhikr, on the other hand, the mu'arrikhin and the explainers of the Quran say it has a different meaning. It doesn't mean that you just memorize. It means that you constantly repeat. There's no end to it. You must constantly repeat, constantly repeat, constantly repeat. That's why when those people who commit sin and want to do astaghfar, the first thing is what? وَذَكَرُوا اللَّهِ. They remembered Allah. They recalled Allah. So astaghfar, if it does not have the remembrance and the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, will it have any potency? It will have no potency. There will be nothing in it. Not only that, but you will feel this almost brokenness to you. Because the same ayah, it says, وَلَمْ يُصِرُّوا عَلَى مَا فَعَلُوا وَهُمْ يَعْلَمُونَ. They will not repeat the sin again. They will not keep doing it over and over again. وَهُمْ يَعْلَمُونَ. What did I say? وَأَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. Most people don't know. Here the ayah is saying, the ones who truly remember God all the time and ask for forgiveness, they are the people who will not repeat the sin. وَهُمْ يَعْلَمُونَ. They know. They know. The Quran is saying that they know. And they bring within themselves a humility. My dear brothers and sisters, there is a concept that is called flow. I want you to go look it up. It's called flow. How many athletes here? Only one. I see one little boy in the back. You guys don't play sports? Man, I'm an athlete. I play every sport. Basketball, soccer, everything. When you're playing basketball, and you've got that jumper going, yeah? And you're hitting it one after the other, yeah? What do you feel? You're in the zone, right? Flow is like that. You're in the zone. You don't miss. Everything is going the way it should be. There's a concept called flow. And it is defined as you are so in tune, your mind is so focused on what you are doing that you're not thinking about anything else. And you get into this groove where everything else falls away. You don't think about anything. You're not thinking about where you're going, what you're trying to achieve. You're just on your task. And one of the things that they say is a result of flow, you focused on your task and doing it perfectly and the way it should be done on the job that needs to be finished, is that in its process, the ego is destroyed. Your nafs is destroyed. Your nafs no longer exists. Think about it next time you want to carry out a task. Focus on doing the job that you're trying to do, the task you're trying to carry out. Don't think about the end product. Don't think about you yourself in the middle of doing the task. Just do the task. Finish the task. Work, work, work. That is called flow. And when that happens, it creates inside of us a crushing of our ego. It destroys your ego. It creates inside of you humility. And so why I am telling you this is that in the process of astaghfar, it cannot be just that let me say astaghfarallah and my end result is that God has forgiven me. Indeed, may Allah forgive all of us. But the process of astaghfar is continuous. It is non-stop. It must continuously be motion and movement and rotation that is existing inside of us. And we must have a trigger. When I say you have to have a trigger, I mean that you encounter things in life and you know that you have to respond in a certain way. Let me give you an example. In the life of Al-Imam Sayyid al-Sajjad, alayhi salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin. In what position was he all the time? Sajda. No? His default position was sajda. Good happens, he is in sajda. Bad happens, he is in sajda. Calamity befalls, sajda. Remember Allah, sajda. Every situation. Have a trigger. And when I say trigger, meaning the minute something happens, you respond. You have cultivated within yourself. And that is astaghfar. Because it is reported that one day Amir al-Mu'mineen is sitting. A man comes in to see him. He says, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, it is reported, he says, I'm having trouble earning money. I don't have enough money to pay for food. What should I do? Amir al-Mu'mineen, he says, do astaghfar. Another man comes in. He says, for example, I have issues with my wife or something else, my children. What should I do? He says, do astaghfar. Another man comes in. He says, I'm having ailments in my body. I'm sick. What should I do? Imam Ali, he says, do astaghfar. More people come. Always the answer, astaghfar, astaghfar, astaghfar. Finally, someone asks, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen. He came in and asked about money and earning a living. You said astaghfar. This person had problem with his wife. What did you answer him? Astaghfar. This person wanted a job. Astaghfar. This person had sickness. Astaghfar. Same thing. Why, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen? Amir al-Mu'mineen, he suggests that Astaghfar is that position of lowliness in front of Allah by which Allah knows that this abd of mine has come with an open heart. And he has come sincerely, ready to change, ready to accept what I am about to give him. And this is the way of the great people, in goodness and in bad. It's related that Ja'far al-Tayyar, he was visiting Ethiopia, the Habasha. He had gone to see the Najashi, the king, who had become a Muslim. When he entered, he saw the Najashi sitting on the ground. He's a king. You recall in the early days of Mecca when he had gone, he was sitting on his throne, no? There was a cross and he was sitting on his throne. Now Ja'far comes, he sees that he's sitting on the ground. So he asks him, he says, why are you sitting here? Najashi, he says, it's good to see you, my friend. Let me give you the good news that my men who were in the Hijaz have come and told me good news of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam's victory. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. He says, where? In the battle of Badr. I have received word. So Ja'far al-Tayyar, he asks, he says, O king, we praise God for this victory given to our Prophet. Why are you sitting on the ground, in the dirt? Najashi, he says, it was the legacy of Isa alayhi salam, of Jesus, that whenever God's bounty would come down, that he would try to express his greatest humility, whether that be sitting in the dirt, wearing the coarsest of clothes, he would show his humility in front of God. And what do we do, unfortunately? The ayah of the Quran warns. He says, الَّذِينَ كَذَّبُوا بِآيَاتِ اللَّهِ سَنَسْتَدْرِجُهُم مِّنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. The Quran, it says that those people who are not sincere, who are hell-bent on committing sin, what does Allah do? He says, they commit a sin, and after they commit a sin, Allah gives them what they want. He makes them happy. They commit a sin, Allah gives them more what they want. This is called istidraj, and the ayah is talking about it. Imagine. So sometimes when Allah gives us what we want, maybe we should consider very deeply what we did before we received it. No? We should think about what did I do the moment before Allah gave me exactly what I wanted. Whether that was from the smallest to the big. My dears, Astaghfar is more than just terminology. Take it from the words of Amir al-Mu'mineen. In his dua, he says, Allahumma inni astaghfiruka mimma tubtu ilayka minhu thumma udtu fih. He says, oh my Allah, I ask your forgiveness for that which I repented already, but then returned to doing it again. He says, wa astaghfiruka lima aradtu bihi wajhaka fakhalatani fihi ma laysa lak. Listen to these words of our Imam. Ya Ali, Ya Ali. He says, I ask your forgiveness because I asked you for something that I promised you, Ya Allah, by it I was going to seek your pleasure. And instead, when you gave it to me, I mixed in with it all the other things that I wanted to achieve for myself and my own personal happiness. He says, وَأَسْتَغْفِرُكَ لِلنِّعَمِ الَّتِي مَنَنْتَ بِهَا عَلَيَّ فَتَقَوَّيْتُ بِهَا عَلَى مَعَاصِيكَ. He says, I ask your forgiveness for all the ni'mah that you have given to me, that you have showered on me. And what did I do? I used that ni'mah to encourage and strengthen myself to disobey you, Ya Allah. If these are the words of Amir al-Mu'mineen, what should our words be? The dua, he says, Astaghfirullah alladhi la ilaha illa huwa al-hayyul qayyum ar-rahman ar-rahim min kulli dhanbin adhnabtuh wa kulli ma'siyatin irtakabtuha. He asks forgiveness taking the name of Allah, Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim, Al-Hayyu, Al-Qayyum. Allah, forgive me for every sin, for every ma'siyah, for every transgression. Now you would say that is a beautiful and poignant dua, no? But it is reported that that dua does not stop. Because what would we have done? Stopped right at this point where I finished. We would have said, God, forgive me for my sins. And I hope that you sort of wipe my slate clean so I can move forward. Not Amir al-Mu'mineen. Amir al-Mu'mineen now says, I have asked for forgiveness. I am asking you to shield me, but now I am going to ask you something more, Ya Allah. In the dua, he says, Allahumma rzuqni aqlan kamila, wa azman thaqiba, wa lubban rajiha, wa qalban zakiya, wa ilman kathira, wa adaban bari'a. He says, Oh Allah, give me a complete mind. My aql, make it complete. I've just asked for astaghfar, but give me a complete mind. Give me a resolve that does not break. Azman thaqiba, a resolve that, when it says thaqib, it means it pierces through everything. It doesn't stop. Nothing can stop your resolve. Give me a resolve that does not stop. Walubban rajiha, give me a superior insight. Let me see things the way they clearly are. Wa qalban zakiya, a purified heart. Wa ilman kathira, lots of knowledge. Wa adaban bari'a, give me manners that are at the highest level of mannerisms. And then he says, وَاجْعَلْ ذَلِكَ كُلَّهُ لِي وَلَا تَجْعَلْهُ عَلَيْهِ. He says, everything that you give it to me, allow me to use it for my own benefit, and don't ever allow it to be used against me. Ah, the words of Amir al-Mu'mineen. بِرَحْمَتِكَ يَا أَرْحَمَ الرَّاحِمِينَ. This dua is what our astaghfar should be. It is how we speak to Allah. And that's what you see on the day of Ashura. We talk about Hurr al-Riyahi, do we not? Hurr ibn Yazid al-Riyahi, he on the 10th of Muharram comes to the side. But there were other men. The riwayas, some vary. Some state there were approximately 30 some odd men who left the side of Umar ibn Sa'ad and came to Imam Hussain. One man I described to you, he was from the tribe of Khuzaymah. On the day of the 10th, he brings a letter from Umar ibn Sa'ad. He gives it to Imam Hussain, and standing there as he gives the letter to Imam Hussain, it is reported that he thinks to himself, Man yakhtar an-nar ala al-jannah. Who's going to pick to go to nar when Jannah is right here in front of you? He joins Imam Hussain. There's a man named Al-Harith al-Kindi, also from the Kinda tribe that I had mentioned to you. Al-Harith al-Kindi, they say in the last moment of Imam al-Hussain, when he was being surrounded, when everyone was dead in the last moment, and the enemy had surrounded him and was ready to strike, they say this man Al-Harith al-Kindi saw and couldn't take it. And he ran to defend Imam Hussain and was martyred. Al-Harith al-Kindi, take the name. Abdullah ibn Bashir. Abdullah ibn Bashir, this man, they describe that along with some others, a man named Mas'ud ibn Sa'id, I think his last name was, these men were on the inside, the inner flanks of Ibn Sa'ad's army, la'natullahi alayh. And so when the time came, they're in the middle of the army. They're not in the front line. If they're in the front line, they can go. They can escape. And indeed, some did. These men, like Abdullah ibn Bashir and a few others, they were in the middle of the army and they realized, what are we doing? We are at fault. We are on the wrong side. They could not join Imam Hussein's side. So in the reports say that when the fighting took place, they started attacking the soldiers of Umar ibn Sa'ad from inside their ranks. And they were killed. Huh? Look at the power of astaghfar. Did they look and see that, no, I'm surrounded by what will then become my enemies? Let me stop. Let me think about this carefully. No. When the burhan was in front of their eyes, they said, no time now. I will turn and I will defend my Mawla. There was a man named Abil Hutuf. Abil Hutuf, they describe, he was a Khariji. He was of the Khawarij on the side of Umar ibn Sa'ad. They describe that when he heard the cry of our master, هَلْ مِن نَاصِرٍ يَنصُرُنَا هَلْ مِن ذَابٍ يَذِبُّ عَنْ حَرَمِ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ. He thought to himself that what religion am I following? That the call of the grandson of Rasulullah is coming and I want the shafa'ah, the intercession of Rasulullah. He leaves and he goes immediately and dies next to Ibn Rasulullah. You see this. This is the power. My dear brothers and sisters, this is Karbala. It is what builds that resiliency inside of you. That desire to change and reform and to be strong enough to do so. Because it is difficult. In this night, I would be remiss if I did not mention the name of Imam Hussein's Safir. That when Imam Hussain left Medina, he had already sent his cousin Muslim ibn Aqil. And when he sent Muslim ibn Aqil, you know that the history describes that Muslim had garnered the support of the Kufan people. Amongst them are men like Sulaiman ibn Sard, Al-Mukhtar, Hani ibn Urwa, other men as well. And that when the word reached to Yazid, he consulted his attendant who said, you need to change the governor of Kufa. Send Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad, la'natullahi alayh, from Basra and send him to Kufa. They pick up Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad. He comes in the middle of the night, they describe. He's dressed in all black. He covers his face so no one recognizes him. And in the middle of the night, he slips into Kufa, removes Nu'man ibn Bashir, the current governor of Kufa, and assumes the role. Grabs the soldiers, and he now says, we are going to quash the revolt of Muslim ibn Aqil. Such that in the beginning days, when Muslim had hundreds, maybe thousands of men behind him in support, now have down to, you can count on 1 or 2 hands, until finally there's nobody. And the night has come on Muslim ibn Aqil. And he is walking the streets of Kufa, and he stops on a door, tired. The door opens, and a lady looks out. Now listen to her words to Muslim ibn Aqil. She says to him, Qum ya Abdullah. She didn't know who he is. She says, get up, O Abdullah. La yaslahu laka al-julus ala babi. O stranger, get up. It is not appropriate for you to sit on my door. Just as that statement comes from this lady, listen to now Muslim's answer. He says to her, Assalamu alayki, ya amatillah. He doesn't know who she is. He calls her amatillah. My salam upon you, O amatillah. أين يذهب من ليس له أهل ولا عشيرة في هذه المدينة? Where is the one to go who has no family, no support in this city? I have no one. Muslim is alone. Taw'a, through conversation, finds out that this is the emissary of Imam Hussain. You know the story. You know this. And I'm coming to my point. They capture Muslim ibn Aqil. They bring him in front of Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad. He is crying. He is weeping. The soldier looks at him and he says, O Muslim, O Ibn Aqil, how is it you are crying now? Is it because you've been defeated? Almost taunting Muslim ibn Aqil. Muslim ibn Aqil, he says, La abki ala nafsi. ولكن أبكي على سيدي ومولاي أبا عبد الله. Maybe he was the first of the mourners on Imam Hussain. That is Muslim ibn Aqil. They take him to the top of the castle. And out of their seeming mercy, bring him water to drink. فأخذ الركوة, the Rawi, he says, أخذ الركوة. وذهب ليشرب ولكن امتلأت من دمه. The blood that is seeping from the wound on his mouth fills the cup with blood. He throws the water. They give him a second cup. Again, he goes to drink. And again, the blood seeping from the wound fills the cup of water, he throws it. And again, third time they bring it, and again the same thing happens, he throws it. Maybe he knew that his master Hussein will be thirsty for 3 days. فرفع اللعين سيفه واحتز رأسه الشريف ورماه من فوق القصر. He cut his head and he threw him from the top of the castle. They say, In that same place, just before Qasr Bani Maqatil, in the desert, there's a place called Zarrud. Imam Hussain has arrived in Zarrud at this point. The same point when Muslim has been shaheed. He stops in Zarrud. Zarrud we will talk about tomorrow or day after. He stops in Zarrud. He sets up camp. The messenger comes. He says, Yabna Rasulillah, Muslim ibn Aqil has been martyred. Imam Hussain immediately, he says, Ya Ukhayya Zainab. Ya Ukhayya Zainab. Oh, my sister Zainab, there is a little girl. Where is she? Sayyida Zainab, she says, she is playing with the other children as children do. We have stopped, so they are playing. Imam Hussain, he says, Ya Ukhayya ya Zainab, call her to me. As this little girl comes, جلس الحسين على الأرض. He sat down, وأخذ بالبنية في حجره. He took the little girl and sat her on the lap. وبدأ يمسح على رأسها. He begins to wipe on her head. The little girl, she becomes worried. She says, Ya Amma, لماذا تمسح على رأسي كما يمسح على رؤوس اليتامى? Why are you wiping on my head like they wipe on the heads of the orphans? This same caravan reaches Qasr Bani Maqatil. And from Qasr Bani Maqatil, it reaches to At-Taf, Qaryat At-Taf. Al-Imam Al-Hussain, it says he falls asleep. Suddenly he wakes up and he says, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Surely we are from him and to him we will return. Ali al-Akbar hears the istirja' of his father. He comes to him, Ya Aba, Mal khabar, what has happened that you are saying Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un? Al-Imam Al-Hussain, he says, I fell asleep and in my dreams it is reported that he says, I saw a rider who came to me, who said to me, Ya Hussain, al-qawm yasirun, wal-manaya tasri bihim. He says, the people are going in their own direction, yet fate is directing them where fate wants them to go. Imam Hussain, he says to Ali al-Akbar, when I heard this, I knew that we were mourning ourselves. لَقَدْ نُعِيَتْ إِلَيْنَا أَنفُسَنَا. He wakes up and he calls the caravan to move forward. They reach into a land. They are not allowed to move any further. Imam Hussain, he asks the people of the land, saying, what is the name of this place? Some of them say that this is the land of Taf. This is the Qarya of Taf, the village of Taf. Someone else, he says, asks them and says, what is the name of this place that we have stopped? The answer, it comes in Naha tuqalu Nainawa. It is named Nainawa. Imam again asks, he says, what is the name of this place? Someone else, he comes forward and he says, Innaha al-Ghadiriya. It is called Ghadiriya. Finally, an old man, he steps forward. He says, Yabna Rasulillah, innaha Karbala. فقال مولانا الحسين أعوذ بالله من الكرب والبلاء. The old man, he says, this land is called Karbala. Imam Hussain, he says, I seek refuge in Allah from the karb and the bala. He says, Ha huna manakhu rihalina, ha huna mahattu rikabina, ha huna maqtal rijalina, ها هنا مسفك دماؤنا ها هنا محل قبورنا. This is the place our caravan will stop. This is the very place our positions will be firmed. This is the place where our men will be killed and our blood will be spilled. This is the place of our graves. بهذا حدثني جدي رسول الله. This is the word of my grandfather. Suddenly it is reported وكأني بسيدي ومولاي أبا عبد الله. The flap of the tent opens and the voice of a woman comes. يا أبا عبد الله ما لوقوفنا في هذا المكان. Why are we stopping in this place, oh my brother Ya Hussein, in this place? Imam Hussain, he says, Ya Zainab, Ya Ukhayya, Ya Zainab, why are you asking me? She says to him, because my brother, أشم رائحة دمك من هذا الأرض. I can smell your blood coming from this ground over here. Why have we stopped here? The days of Karbala have started. The days of martyrdom have started. The blood of Hussein and his companions on this ground. The blood of Ali and Al-Akbar on this ground. This very ground that Allah has made sacred. Only that on the return from Damascus, my brothers and sisters, each one comes back just like we go and do our ziyarah. One of them coming on the grave of her loved one in Karbala. Another one going and collapsing on the grave of her son. Layla in the day of Arba'in, falling on the grave of Ali and Al-Akbar. Farwa on the grave of Qasim. Rabab on the grave of Ali and Al-Asghar Abdullah Radi. Every one woman on the grave of her father or her brother or her husband. All of them weeping and crying. All except for one little girl. كانت تقوم مرة وتقع تارة أخرى. This little girl will get up sometimes and collapse, running from one place to another, not knowing which direction to go. Finally she says, يا عمتا يا زينب كل النساء على قبر أحبابهن. All the ladies are on the graves of their loved ones. ولكن أين قبر والدي Muslim ibn Aqil? Where is the grave of my father Muslim ibn Aqil? Tell me, where is that grave that I can go and hug it and kiss and collapse upon it? Show me to the grave. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا آل محمد أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. باسمك العظيم الأعظم الأعز الأجل الأكرم يا الله. اللهم إنا نسألك وندعوك ونقسم عليك بحق الزهراء وأبيها. You hear me every night asking by the haqq of Fatima al-Zahra. Ask your dua through the name of Fatima al-Zahra. Ask through the name of Bint Rasulillah, and Allah will never turn you away empty-handed. Allahumma inna nas'aluka wa nad'uka bihaqq az-Zahra'i wa abiha wa ba'liha wa baniha والسر المستودع فيها لعن الله ظالميها. اللهم شافي كل مريض. اللهم رد كل غريب. اللهم فك كل أسير. اللهم غير سوء حالنا بحسن حالك يا كريم. اللهم وفقنا لمراضيك وجنبنا معاصيك وثبت أقدامنا على صراطك المستقيم وخذ بأيدينا إليك يا أرحم الراحمين. وفرج عنا يا الله فرجا عاجلا قريبا كلمح البصر وهو أقرب من ذلك. وافرغ علينا صبرا وتوفنا مسلمين. والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين.
مولا مقتل میں سر کو جھکا، لاش اکبر پہ تنہا کھڑے ہے، دھیمے دھیمے تپکتے ہیں آنسو، ہائے صغرا کا خط پڑھ رہے ہیں، بولے کیا میں جواب اس کا دوں، بولے کیا میں جواب اس کا دوں، ہائے صغرا بتا کیا لکھوں، 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 میں تو پردیس میں لٹ گیا، اپنے لشکر کو میں رو چکا، تیرا بابا غریب ہو گیا، تیرا بابا غریب ہو گیا، اور اس کے سوا کیا لکھوں، ہائے صغرا بتا کیا لکھوں، ہائے صغرا بتا کیا لکھوں، آندھیا میرا گھر لے گئی، میرے لخت جگر لے گئی، میرا نور نظر لے گئی، میرا نور نظر لے گئی، اور اس کے سوا کیا لکھوں، ہائے صغرا بتا کیا لکھوں، ہائے صغرا بتا کیا لکھوں، خط تیرا اب سنا کسے، کون میری صدا پر اٹھے، شب کو جاگے ہوئے سو گئے، شب کو جاگے ہوئے سو گئے، اور اس کے سوا کیا لکھوں، ہائے صغرا لکھوں، ہائے صغرا بتا کیا لکھوں، ہائے صغرا وہ بھائی تیرا جس نے تجھ سے تھا وعدہ کیا، کھا گئی اس کو کربلا، کھا گئی اس کو کربلا، اور اس کے سوا کیا لکھوں، ہائے صغرا بتا کیا لکھوں، ہائے صغرا بتا کیا لکھوں، پیار تو نے تھا جس کو لکھا، گھٹنیاں بھی جو نہ چل سکا، ہاں وہ اصغر بھی اب نہ رہا، ہاں وہ اصغر بھی اب نہ رہا، اور اس کے سوا کیا لکھوں، ہائے صغرا وہ کیا لکھوں، ہائے صغرا یا حسین حسین ہوں پانچ زخموں سے برے ایسا مسافر کون ہے ہوں پانچ
زخموں سے بھرے ایسا مسافر کون ہے
ہوں پانچ زخموں سے برے ایسا مسافر کون ہے ہوں پانچ زخموں سے برے ایسا مسافر کون ہے ہوں پانچ زخموں سے برے ایسا مسافر کون ہے وعدہ نبھانے کے لیے دین کو بچانے کے لیے
وعدہ نبھانے کے لیے دین کو بچانے کے لیے
وعدہ نبھانے کے لیے دین کو بچانے کے لیے کانٹوں پہ دو چلتا رہے
کانٹوں پہ جو چلتا رہے
کانٹوں پہ دو چلتا رہے ایسا مسافر کون ہے پانچ زخموں سے
بھرے ایسا مسافر کون ہے
ہوں پانچ زخموں سے بھرے ایسا مسافر کون ہرگاہ مجھے اس کو بے خطا در لگائے از خیام
ہر کام کو بے خطا در لگائے اشکیا
ہرگاہ مجھے اس کو بے خطا در لگائے از خیام وہ شکر کا سجدہ کرے
وہ شکر کا سجدہ کرے
وہ شکر کا سجدہ کرے ایسا مسافر کون ہے پانچ زخموں سے بھرے ایسا مسافر کون ہے
پانچ زخموں سے بھرے ایسا مسافر کون ہے
تجھ خدا کا واسطہ اے کربلا تو ہی بتا
تجھ کو خدا کا واسطہ اے کربلا تو ہی بتا
تجھ خدا کا واسطہ اے کربلا تو ہی بتا غیرت جسے سجدہ کرے
غیرت جسے سجدہ کرے
غیرت جسے سجدہ کرے ایسا مسافر کون ہے ہوں پانچ زخموں سے بھرے
ایسا مسافر کون ہے پانچ زخموں سے بھرے ایسا مسافر کون ہے
تارا جگر کی یاد میں اپنے پیدر کی یاد میں
تارا جگر کی یاد میں اپنے پیدر کی یاد میں
تارا جگر کی یاد میں اپنے پیدر کی یاد میں تا زندگی روتا رہے
تا زندگی روتا رہے
تا زندگی روتا رہے ایسا مسافر کون ہے
پانچ زخموں سے بھرے ایسا مسافر کون ہے پانچ زخموں سے
سجدہ کرے ایسا مسافر کون ہے پانچ زخموں سے بھرے ایسا
مسافر کون ہے
پانچ زخموں سے بھرے ایسا مسافر کون ہے تربت بنائے خید میں میت اٹھائے خید میں
تربت بنائی قید میں
तुरबत बनाए खैद में, मैयत उठाए खैद में, पूछो जरा तारीख से,
पूछो जरा तारीख से,
पूछो जरा तारीख से, ऐसा मुसाफिर कौन है हूँ पास जख्मों से भरे, ऐसा मुसाफिर कौन है हूँ पास जख्मों से भरे, ऐसा मुसाफिर
Hussain, 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 Allahumma salli ala.
Thank you. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. اللهم صل على محمد عبدك ورسولك وحبيبك وصفيك ونبيك وخيرتك من خلقك وحافظ سرك ومبلغ رسالاتك، وعلى علي أمير المؤمنين ووصي رسول رب العالمين، وعلى الصديقة الطاهرة فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين، وعلى سبطي الرحمة وإمامي الهدى الحسن بن علي المجتبى والحسين الشهيد بكربلاء. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار، ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتك. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. اللهم وصل على أئمة المسلمين علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي والخلف الهادي المهدي الإمام القائم صاحب العصر والزمان. الأمان 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 من زوال الإيمان وفتن الزمان. عجل الله تعالى فرجه وسهل الله مخرجه، وجعلنا من أنصاره وأعوانه والذابين عنه والمسارعين إليه في قضاء حوائجه والمستشهدين بين يديه جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. صلى الله عليه وسلم.